Hello, you speakers. I'm Katsam.
I'm George.
And I'm Javier.
Welcome back to the You Speak English podcast, your ultimate destination for leveling up your English skills. Today, we're delving into an interesting topic, your bilingual brain.
It's been a while. I'm thrilled to be back. Gosh, guys, I've missed you. Doing this podcast, and we were quite busy with some projects, and Javier will tell you a little bit about what happened also. But I'm excited to be back with Katza, with Javier, and especially with all of our audience out there.
Okay, I just want to clarify something to all our listeners out there. Yes, I did have an operation, which meant I had to be out for about a month. And yes, I'm still a guy. So stop sending me extra large bikinis. They don't fit me. And no, I will not be having an OnlyFans page.
Oh, man.
No, sorry.
bummer.
Just dropped 10 new listeners.
I
by
know.
that.
Yeah,
New-
no, zero
new
followers.
We're all,
Excited
about
our
that,
followers. Darn it.
All right. So awesome. Today we're talking about the bilingual brain, and we'll explore why we sometimes mix languages, how our brains handle two languages, and the benefits of being bilingual. So let's get started.
So you notice, George, how sometimes, when you and I are talking, we start a sentence in Spanish and end it in English? That's called code switching, and it's super common among people with bilingual brains.
Yeah, code switching, it's when you switch between languages in a single conversation. It's like our brains know that we can comunicar mejor by mixing lenguajes, idiomas.
Yes, and it's not just random. Sometimes we switch because there's a word that fits better in one language than the other. For example, saying tacos in Spanish, it's better to say tacos in English. Just say something.
So when you go to San Diego, you don't say San Diego or
I do say San
Diego. I'm gonna go to
Diego,
San
but I
Diego.
never say Mexico. No,
Mexico.
I do say
I'm from-
Mexico City. Sorry.
I'm from
Come
Guadalajara.
on. You do say it. You're back in
I
Texas.
do say Mexico City, Mexico. Yeah, I do say it.
As soon as
I
Javier
hadn't
crosses
noticed.
the border, he's on the U.S. side. He starts saying, "I'm gonna go to Jalisco." He doesn't hear Jalisco. He's Jalisco.
Yeah.
This
You're
cool.
right.
Yeah, don't touch me, sir. I'm an American citizen. Okay.
I have rights.
I have
I'm a
rights.
green card holder.
I have a
Does that
right.
work?
I have rights. I know my rights. All right.
All right, guys. So, hey, but this codes mixing can also cause some funny mistakes. Like I remember so many times my students wanted to say pregnant in English, but said embarrassed because it sounds like the word pregnant in Spanish, which is embarazada. So you see the similarity, embarrassed, embarazada, which would be kind of a false cognate.
Well, yes, those false friends, which are this is what are they called? They can be tricky. Our brain sometimes confuses similar words with different languages. It's because both languages are stored in the same part of the brain and they can overlap. So I have an interesting story here, guys.
Okay.
There is a nightclub here in Guadalajara on Periférico and near this avenue called Mariano Otero. Now I'm not a fan of using names like if your name is Diego, it's not Diego for me, it's just Diego, all right? So back in the old days when we had Gigante, I said, I'm going to the Gigante to do some shopping. Now it's called something else. I think it's Chedraui now, right?
Sorry.
But anyway, so I was gonna meet a teacher to go to a company, and I thought, you know what? If we're gonna go in that route, we should meet outside the cows, because the nightclub is called Cows, not Chaos. Cows. So I said, okay, so you can pick me up and we'll take it from there. And she said, I never seen any cows. And like, of course, everybody knows the cows. And it's like, well, I drive by there every day. I never seen any cows. And I'm thinking, like, the cows, come on, you seen the cows. I'm looking at my other friends. Oh, so apparently she's thinking cows like moo.
Moo.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
Cows
get
as
it.
in
So
moon. As
so
in
So I
the
said-
moon
name
juice.
of this nightclub was Chaos, like chaos.
Not
And
chaos.
she said it cows, and
I said in
you thought it
Spanish.
was cows, like the mood, like these animals. Right? Oh, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I see how it could have
Well,
gone that
I
way.
say La Minerva. I don't say La Minerva.
Ah, La Minerva.
But yeah, but this one was more of a sound, more of a false friend again, right?
It's still kind of a
Mistaking
fault
the sound of the word cows, like for the cows, right? Instead of
because
chaos.
of false
Uh-huh.
friend of cows.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Another interesting thing is how one language can dominate the other. So if we use one language more frequently, it becomes stronger. And the less used language can get suppressed. So this is very important if you're learning English. Remember that Spanish will suppress English if you don't make an effort to practice and to use it more. This can obviously lead to language attrition, which is completely suppressing the less used language. And this is when we start forgetting the less used language.
You're like, what is that
You know,
word?
this might sound really funny to you guys, but have you ever met him? We met an American, right? Was it like 5 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
And he was a martial arts instructor,
All right.
and he'd been living here in Mexico, I think, since he was a teenager.
Mm.
And well, you would think, well, he's American. His language is basically native English, right?
Right.
It was the totally opposite. He'd forgotten chunks of his own language, chunks of English, and
He
he
had
was
a hard
more
time.
fluent in Spanish than in English, believe it or not. So this backs up what you just said, Katza. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So hey, and also adding to this, there's according to a study by the University of Edinburgh, bilinguals who actively use both languages can maintain their skills better. So both of them active all the time. So that's why we always insist, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
You guys didn't know, but I went through the University of Edinburgh.
You went through?
Yeah, once in the car.
You walked through it or what?
I went through in a car parking lot.
Did you get in?
Yeah, I was guessing it.
I went just through it. Yeah.
All right.
And there are ways to keep both languages strong. For example, setting aside time each day a little bit to really speak in the less used language helps. For instance, watching movies in English and then discussing them in Spanish with friends, or the other way around.
Well,
Yeah,
that's true.
this means
Yeah,
if
that's a
you're
good one.
studying English as a second language, you should be using it. I think the same amount of English and Spanish should be used.
I got a question here now. It's not, Katz and Javier. We know now that, there's all this attraction for apps, learning with apps, and we mentioned this before. And I do believe apps are a really good way to acquire vocabulary and probably listening skills. I just don't think they're there at where you can do the active part of the language, right? Which is the speaking and the writing part, which I think, you can have some input, but I think the most important part, that's what they're still missing, right? And, I'm taking the opportunity of this because we're talking about actively using both languages actively. And that's not just listening, but also speaking the language, using it. And I still believe, I'm a strong believer that if you want to be really fluent in a language, not only do you have to listen and read, but you do have to practice it, use it, talk to other, speak in that language with other people, even with native speakers, or in a great school as well.
True. I'll tell you one thing, guys. I focused so much on perfecting my English the last time I was in the States when I was young that I did forget Spanish a little bit. It was not as level as my English, so I started reading political magazines because I like politics, and they have or Time magazine in Spanish or Newsweek in Spanish as well. Yeah, but you do have to get used to it and then try to use that new acquired vocabulary or that you're refreshing into something that because I used to be embarrassed because I used to teach kids, and then when I talked to the parents, I would stammer a lot, like because I couldn't find the word in Spanish. So it does help you. One trick that I did have just in my free time, I would watch something on TV, let's say in Spanish, and in my head I would try to translate as quickly as possible. And then backwards, and then just simultaneously, just for me. If I couldn't find the word, then I'd just jot it down and go look it up later.
Mental agility, right?
Yeah, just keep it. It used to be. I was so good at that, but use it or lose it. And then I stopped, and it just went back normal.
And immersion is another great method. Spending time in a place where the less used language is spoken can boost your skills quickly. Like, for example, myself, I started studying English since I was 4. I haven't finished yet. I will never finish, I
never
think.
do.
Exactly. And But I was 38
Uh-huh.
when I moved to the States, and just 2 years of complete immersion, like 100% English spoken environment, it
Mhm.
just sealed the deal. Like
Yeah, it helps a
it
lot.
perfected my
Totally.
English immensely.
There,
This takes me to
yeah.
my next question. Like, I was thinking about this when you were both talking about your anecdotes of how you learned English or acquired it. So, Javier, I understand that you learned or acquire
I
your
acquired it,
English when you
first
were
of all.
like 9,
8 or 9, yeah.
8 or 9. Okay, good. So, and Katza, you kind of acquired it at the same time because you, in some way, you had some input, input in your school when you're 4, but then you reinforced it by also adding the learning aspect while at the stage of adulthood, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Good. I'm mentioning this because just as some additional information for our listeners out there, and how your brain is divided into hemispheres. Everybody knows that, right? You got your
Yeah.
left hemisphere and your right hemisphere. The left one is for the logical and analytical parts, and the right one is for the social and emotional. So children learn a language easier because of the plasticity of their brain. So that lets them use both their hemispheres in language acquisition. So imagine that while adults, their learning is more lateralized into one hemisphere, usually the left one. So if this is true, a child, when you're learning a language or second language when you're a child, it gives you more of a holistic or inclination, to social aspects, so and
Mm.
emotional in emotional context. For example, when they're adults or even when they're children, if they speak Spanish and English, but let's say that they acquired English when they were just infants, they could basically pray and feel and think and even cry in English, opposed to an adult, where an adult, he's a more rational, and an adult, when he's functioning in that second language, he is less emotional in that context. He's more rational, as if he were doing it in his native language, for instance, in Spanish. All right,
Mm.
so an adult would probably, even he's perfectly bilingual, but when it comes to the emotional part, if he's going to pray or think or something really, really deep emotional, he's going to do it in his native language, in Spanish. In this case,
Yeah.
if we're talking about Spanish.
Especially
But
if you want to curse.
regardless of how you learn second languages, or acquire them, it gives you extraordinary benefits. Is some of are even very visible. They gave you a higher density of your brain matter. Your brain is more active in certain regions when engaging in that second language, and it can even help you. And Javier's going to mention this. I won't talk about that, about some health issues, but it also strengthens your dorsal lateral frontal cortex. That's a mouthful right there,
Mm.
and
Well,
which
say
is in
that
charge of
again.
large role in executive functioning, problem solving. But it's never too late. Whether you're an adult or you're or a kid, it's never too late to become bilingual. You
Yeah.
always have the time to do.
The brain,
It's always a good time to become bilingual.
the brain is an amazing feature, guys. You guys ever heard about the guy that was shot in the head and like blew off half his brain,
Hmm.
the left side of his brain actually, and they didn't know if he was going to be able to talk or not. And after surgeries and therapies, he's all right now.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Javier, I
That's
Uh,
got I
amazing.
got a
no, he's
we have an
all right.
acquaintance. We have an acquaintance here. I don't know if you guys remember that there was a thing here in Mexico called Juegos Panamericanos or something like that. So
Yeah.
we met a girl that lives around by the house,
Uh,
young teenager. She had a terrible car accident. She lost half of her head, half of her
uh,
brain.
oh yeah.
She was in the hospital in coma for months, and doctors had said she's just going to be like a vegetable for the rest of her life.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's been 10 years. She's a fully functional woman. She's married. She's got kids. She's got
Wow.
her own business, and
Awesome.
she's a fully like a functional. I think she's got some kind of an implant or something, so it
Yeah.
doesn't look
So
weird.
it looks all right.
But it proves scientists sometimes wrong that how marvelous, like you mentioned right now, Javier, how marvelous the brain
Yeah.
is. It would just reconnect. all the synapses, it would rewire so your brain starts functioning as it were a normal. Well, it is a normal brain, but how plastic it could be and how malleable it is so it can function the way it should function.
Now, you're a lot more into research than I am, George. You probably might have heard about that particular syndrome or incident where somebody has a car accident, they hit themselves in the head, and when they wake up speaking English, but let's say like with a Chinese accent.
Yeah, I've heard
And they can't
things,
change
or
it.
even, or they can even paint or have some artistic, inclination. Yeah, I've heard
Yes.
that.
Like
You heard
a
about that,
totally
Camille?
Unbelievable,
rewiring.
right?
You're working
Uh-huh.
on your English. Yeah, I can't recall what it's called, but it's been known that, and talking about like native speakers, Americans, they had
Yeah.
like had
Yeah,
a
I've
car
seen it.
accident,
Or
hit their
people
head,
who
and
can,
now they speak like this, that they don't know what they want to say, but
Mhm.
they can't help it. They just it's like, I don't know, it's like, oh,
have you
they
heard
have all
about,
the
have you guys heard about the ones that have these kind of accidents, and then they can, when somebody's playing a music, they can see the tones or they can see the notes in colors.
Yeah.
Like they can
wow,
actually see the colors. I said,
The
what?
colors
it's amazing,
related
right?
to each musical note.
No, it's
Brain,
amazing,
the
but
brain. It's a
Yeah.
whole
brain.
universe in there.
So even having a bilingual brain, one of the great benefits, it can delay the onset of dementia, Alzheimer, all of that. Train your brain, you know, and you'll have better cognitive skills, and it'll keep you active in even old age.
Yeah, exactly. And English also opens up so many opportunities, like connecting with other people and understanding different cultures. Being bilingual is a superpower. So
Yeah,
you better start
absolutely.
acquiring it now.
Totally. So for our listeners, if you're struggling with balancing two languages, remember that's normal. Just keep practicing, immerse yourself, and enjoy the journey. The benefits are worth it.
That's
Yes.
true, and that's all for today, guys. But before we go, I have a joke for you. You know how,
All right.
guys? Did you know that when
Woo!
people cross the border illegally, they only cross in pairs? Do you know why?
No.
Because
No,
there's a huge sign on the border that says no trespassing.
I'm going to kill you, dude.
So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Keep practicing your English and Spanish, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right, guys. I can't thank you all enough for hanging out in there for us, and grateful to be back with lots of more of ideas. And so talk to you la próxima week.
Okay, this is it for today. Thank you for tuning in. And remember to subscribe and share. You want to get in touch? Check out our YouTube channel where you can comment on our videos and find us on social media. We're everywhere except for X and Threads as at @USPK English, the one with the yellow logo. For more information about us, please visit our website. It will be linked in the description box below. And remember,
Perfect practice.
Makes perfect.
all right, until next time.
See you then.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Adios.
Bye.